What are we talking about? Wake up. Iran cannot be a nuclear regime. It's very, very simple. You cannot have an Iranian terror regime.
I'm hearing him talk about monsters in charge of governments, the face of terror, nuclear weapons. Who are we talking about here, Iran or Israel?
Yeah, but how can you demand? How can you demand?
Pierce, Iran,
Doran, you're not answering my question.
Because of an existential threat. But I just want to say Iran has signed it and violated it.
Mehdi Hasan is visibly unsurprised as the Israeli spokesperson keeps uttering the same Israeli mental gymnastics, pushing propaganda, crying anti-Semitism, and bringing up the Holocaust. Mehdi Hasan knows these tactics, so he swiftly moves past the antics and asks some real heavy-hitting questions.
What are we talking about? Wake up! This is the face of terror with the bomb that's being stopped. And therefore, I think President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it should be the entire Western world, has an opportunity to stop this before it happens. And I think, if anything, it's praiseworthy, Piers.
Okay, Mehdi Hasan, it's praiseworthy.
Well, it's not praiseworthy. The entire war has been a disaster. I think everyone agrees on that. Even the Israeli opposition agrees it's been a disaster the way Netanyahu and Trump have handled it. I think any objective person can look at the state of this war, even if you are pro the US government, pro the Israeli government, and say it's been a success. But let's put that to one side. I want to take on board what Doran said across the board, because a lot of it was pure projection. I mean, I'm hearing him talk about monsters in charge of governments, the face of terror, nuclear weapons. Who are we talking about here, Iran or Israel? Because I would ask a few questions for your viewers to consider today as they listen to Doran. Which country in the Middle East has nuclear weapons? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East has not signed the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East is defying a UN Security Council resolution calling for that country to open up its nuclear facilities to IAEA inspectors? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East attacked 6 countries in the Middle East last year? 6. It wasn't Iran, it was Israel. So Iran, for all its many sins and crimes, is not the rogue nuclear state in the Middle East right now. That country is Israel. As you said, Piers, in your introduction, global public opinion has made it very clear that they see Israel as the threat to regional and international peace right now. You pointed out, Piers, that it's Benjamin Netanyahu dragging American Republican presidents into wars of choice, Iraq in 2002-3, and now Iran in 2025-2026.
Yeah, I mean, Doran Spellman, the flaw in your argument is just a bunch of woolly liberals who didn't want this to happen. If you look at actually the reaction from American conservatives, you know, you got Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones. You've got Trump supporters like Joe Rogan, Theo Von, and others, the big podcasters who helped get him elected. There's a massive cross-section of very influential people, many of whom are conservative Trump supporters historically, who have condemned this war and want nothing to do with it. So I don't think you can just bat it away as, oh, it's just a bunch of, you know, liberals throwing their toys out of the pram. It's not.
You know, I love the word projection because projection is used by people who don't live in the real world, because the alternative to a projection when it comes to a nuclear weapon, when does that projection end, Mehdi? Does it end when Iran is trying to develop enriched uranium, and already back before the JCPOA had already developed 6 times, and now they've developed almost 90% of enriched uranium, which is 20 times the amount you need for an atomic weapon? Is that for civil uses? Is that still a projection, or is it when they actually press that little button and it lands in the U.S.?
Well, let me ask you. Well, let me before.
Hold on, Piers.
Well, hang on. On that point, Doran, on that point, given you said
a projection that 22 civilians have been killed
but let me
from
ask
ballistic missiles, and we've got 600 warheads on Israel. We've had warheads land on the UAE.
You've killed 2,000 people in Lebanon and 3,000 people in Iran.
And regarding, you know, it's so funny regarding Iran. You know, you put them on the court bench. You call in someone for a character reference, comparing Iran to Israel. Who's Iran? Well, they've developed a global terror regime that stretches from the Middle East through Latin America into Europe. They have the Houthis who've stopped shipping and have fired missiles and weapons both at Israel and U.S. assets. They created Hezbollah, the world's largest terror organization that is also one of the largest drug organizations.
Actually, you created Hezbollah by illegally invading Lebanon.
Who committed October 7th. They just killed 30,000 of their people in the streets for protesting. I mean, do we need such a projection? I mean, only an idiot would actually say we need a projection to understand what Iran's intent is. We don't even need to try. They keep shoving it in your face, Mehdi. You're an absolute denial. And so is Candace Owens, and so is Tucker Carlson. And President Trump, thank God,
I'm not here to speak for...
This is where Mehdi Hasan corners Doron Spielman on why Israel refuses to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty or admit to possessing nuclear weapons while demanding transparency from Iran. Spielman keeps repeating that Israel's stance is a necessary measure for survival against existential threats, labeling Iran as the world's leading sponsor of terror. But that is a weak argument because Mehdi Hasan dismantles it by arguing that Israel behaves like a rogue state that initiates regional conflicts. He also argues that the Trump administration's withdrawal from the JCPOA actually incentivized Iran to accelerate its uranium enrichment program.
I'm not here to speak for Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, who I've been very critical of. I'm not here to speak for Iran, who I've been very critical of. I'm here to talk about facts. You say projection. Let's just deal with your little speech in two ways. Number one, even if I were to accept your premise that Iran's nuclear program was a threat, even though the IEA and US intelligence say it wasn't, but let's accept your premise that it was a threat. This is not the way you stop a nuclear program. We had the JCPOA, which Israel opposed, Donald Trump opposed. Iran was enriching at 3.67%, had no pathway to a bomb under the JCPOA, as every major disarmament and nuclear expert said at the time. It was Israel, Netanyahu, Trump that opposed this, and now we have them at 60% enriched uranium because of the actions of Israel and Donald Trump. So if you claim to want to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon, you've done a very bad job of doing that. In fact, if you're the Iranian leadership now, you probably want a bomb more now than ever before because you've been attacked by Israel 2 years running. That's one point. On the point about projection, the point I'm making is this, Doron, and you dodged it, so let me ask it again. The only country in the Middle East right now that can put its finger on a button and fire a nuke is Israel. The only country threatening to fire the nuke it has, Ben-Gvir smiled and nodded the other day when an Israeli journalist suggested nuking Iran, is Israel. Why is your country, Doron, you're a spokesman for the military, in violation of UN Resolution 487, which was unanimously passed, including by the Reagan administration in 1981, calling for Israel to open up its nuclear facilities to the IAEA? Why wouldn't you allow IAEA inspectors to look at your illicit secret nuclear weapons program?
First of all, I think you and I both know that there are no binding United Nations resolutions against Israel. Not in
yes,
any
there is.
sphere.
UN Security Council Resolution 487.
There's not a single
You're wrong, Doron. You're wrong, Doron.
UN resolution.
You're wrong.
And there is a number of.
You're lying. Everyone can Google it right now. UN Security Council Resolution 487. People can Google it.
Mehdi, you just said it yourself.
You can talk over me.
Basically just
UN Security Council Resolution.
You're saying that Israel.
487.
Mehdi, one second. We can't
you can talk over me. I'll wait and make my point again. Okay, well, let me just make one point and then I'll let you speak indefinitely. UN Resolution 487. You can Google it right now. People can watch it at home. In 1981, the Reagan administration voted for it. It calls on Israel to urgently open up its facilities to IAEA controls. That is a UN Security Council resolution which is binding under international law. Israel has been in violation of it for 45 years. Why are you in violation of it? And do you accept that Israel has nuclear weapons? If you won't accept that, why should we take anything you say seriously on anything else?
It is not a binding resolution. However, I want to get your point because I think you just answered it for me. You said that this has been Israel, according to you, has been in violation for 40 years. So therefore, you're assuming Israel's had a nuclear weapon for 40 years. Can you tell me one time, Mehdi?
It has.
One single time.
Are you denying
Israel
that?
has threatened another country with
Doron,
nuclear weapons? Can you tell me, Mehdi, one time when an Israeli prime minister under an entire command center would have the ability with massive controls, just one second.
I answered your question.
That is referred to another country. Hold on, Mehdi. Another country, as you and I both know, that Iran, who you have projections about, the supreme leader, right? Ali Khamenei, which I'm very curious why you defend him and his entire regime. Ali Khamenei refers to Israel as the little Satan. And we both know how he refers to the United States, meaning the spiritual leader. You've called him a spiritual leader.
But Doron, you're not, let me jump in here. Doron, let me jump in. Let me jump in, please.
Calls America the great Satan.
Let me jump in,
and you want to give him a nuclear weapon?
Stop
Israel
talking.
and the US are fighting together against
please
terror
stop
regimes.
talking. I am here. And I am moderating this panel, much as you both like to just get off without me. Mehdi raises the point I have raised with a number of pro-Israeli guests in the last few weeks. Why is it that Israel does not admit it has nuclear weapons? And are you prepared to do so now?
Israel, as we all know, is a state that upon its very founding faced an existential threat from 7 countries that attacked it. We also know that in 1967, Israel was attacked by 3 countries, followed by 1973, followed by the Gulf War in 1981, followed by Hezbollah and Hamas. There's probably not been another country on earth
What's this got to do with you being transparent about having nuclear weapons?
According to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Israel has not signed and therefore is not bound by, Israel, if it maintains a nuclear arsenal, it has not used it, and if it maintains it, it is because it
Why are you saying if? You know the answer.
Hold on. And since the Holocaust, which today is International Holocaust Day in Israel, it's Israeli Holocaust Day, and we are mourning tonight 6 million Jews that have died. Israel maintains the ability never to rely on anyone else, and therefore, Israel is not bound by the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. It didn't sign on. Who is bound? The United States is bound, and it has followed it.
Yeah, but how can you demand?
Iran,
how can you demand?
Pierce,
Yeah,
Iran,
Doran,
I answered
Doran,
you.
you're not answering my question.
Because of an existential
Doran,
threat.
Doran.
But I just want to say Iran has signed it and violated
Doran,
it from 2002.
How can you, with a straight face, defend Israel's determination for full transparency by another country over its nuclear weapon ambitions when you have so far steadfastly ducked my very simple question as to whether Israel has its own nuclear weapons? And
I have not ducked your question.
Do you have them or not?
Pierce, and I explained to you that while I do not have first-hand knowledge of Israel's nuclear facilities, like you, I've heard the foreign reports.
You don't know. You don't know.
Hold on. I'm answering. Pierce,
as a reservist IDF spokesman, you don't know if Israel has nukes.
I would assume it is highly likely, as do you, that Israel has a nuclear program. Israel never signed the NPT, and the reason Israel never signed the NPT, I would assume, even though I wasn't in the room, is because Israel maintains its individual right to defend itself. To compare that now to Iran and a potential nuclear program in a regime that is the world's #1 global terrorism, or they are not just terrorism, they engineered the idea of terrorism. They represent terror that has killed 241 American Marines. They have killed 85 Jews in Buenos Aires. They have killed thousands of U.S. soldiers with roadside bombs. They have carried out 22, according to MI5, mass casualty attempts in England since 2022. They just killed 40,000 of the protesters. Israel has a protest about cottage cheese. Israel's protests every day. How can you compare the idea that Israel would have a nuclear weapon and Iran, the potential of Hitler having a nuclear weapon?
Let Mehdi respond.
I noticed that Doran said that Iran killed 30,000 of its people a few minutes ago. Now he's saying 40,000. By the end of this discussion, it'll be 100,000. It's funny how they inflate the numbers of people killed in Iran, but never recognize the 100,000 people you killed in Gaza, that your military killed in Gaza. 100,000 people minimum killed in Palestine, which are actually verified numbers by international organizations like the Lancet Medical Journal. You deny those. But let's put that to one side and deal with some of the stuff you've been saying. Number one, just some fact checks. A UN Security Council resolution is binding under international law. The Reagan administration voted for it, and you've never followed it. You proudly say you haven't signed the NPT. People watching at home will laugh their heads off. You're basically saying, because we didn't sign an international treaty, we don't have to follow international law. So then why doesn't Iran just pull out of the NPT? Why doesn't everyone just pull out of the NPT and do what Israel did? You say Israel reserves the right to defend itself. That old chestnut. No other country in the Middle East is allowed to defend itself. Israel is the country that bombed, count them, 6 countries in the Middle East last year. I can't think of a single country on planet Earth, aside from the US and Israel, that bombed half a dozen countries in the calendar year 2025. That is your country that you're defending, a rogue nation that bombs whoever it sees fit and then claims to be a victim. You say that, for example, you mentioned in your comments, you said 1967 we were attacked. Complete flat falsehood. Israel attacked first in 1967. Everyone knows that. It's a documented fact. You can call it a preemptive war, but you can't just lie on here and say you were attacked. You were not. You said that Iran pioneered the use of terrorism in the Middle East. Actually, that was the Zionist gangs. That was the Stern Gang and the Irgun who blew up British diplomats, bombed the King David Hotel, hung British sergeants, attacked British civilians and military and Arabs. It was actually Jewish and Zionist terror gangs that pioneered terrorism in the Middle East 100 years ago. So a lot of your facts are just completely wrong, and you're dodging Piers' central point, which is that you do have nukes. You know you have nukes. You're not allowed to say you have nukes, which makes this whole conversation so absurd. absurd. But the idea that you would come on TV and go after someone else's civil nuclear program. Remember, the US says Iran did not have a weapons program, while you yourself have weapons. That's the US intelligence community's view. They said last year. That is what the US said last year. The US annual.
Then why do we need the
Let me read out the quote to you.
Program that you support.
Let me read out the quote to you. Let me read out the quote to you. If you stop interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you, Doran. You spoke for a while. In 2025, this is what the Director of National Intelligence said. We continue to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. A country that doesn't have nukes is being lectured by you, a country that does have nukes. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic and you hadn't killed so many Iranian kids as part of your supposedly disarmament program.
Let me ask you, Doran, let me ask you a question.
Can I respond?
Doran, let me. You can respond.
Can I respond?
You can respond, but let me ask you. Let me ask you another question.
Like Israel wasn't attacked in '67. That Israel is basically decided
you
to
launched the '67 war. That's a fact.
What Mehdi does is he tells a fantasy story.
It's historical
like
fact.
Israel woke up one morning 2 years ago and said, you know what? We're a country of 9 million people. Let's go attack 6 countries throughout the Middle East.
In the end, we see the IDF spokesperson continue to deny and deflect over UN Security Council Resolution 487, which was passed in 1981. The resolution calls on Israel to urgently place its nuclear facilities under International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, safeguards. He continues making excuses, either by claiming Israel is not bound by the resolution or by arguing that the country faces too many security threats. I guess that's it for today. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.